In April 1992, the community lost one of its most cherished members, James L. Paddock, who died suddenly at the age of 49. Jim had served as Professor of International Business Relations and Academic Dean. He was a mainstay of this institution, and his loss was felt very deeply and is still felt deeply. Above all else, Jim Paddock was a superb teacher who worked constantly to strengthen and improve teaching at the Fletcher School. After consultation with Jim's wife, Ilga, the faculty established an annual teaching award in his memory. The Paddock Award goes to the Fletcher professor who best exemplifies excellence in teaching. We are able to make this award thanks to the generosity of Jim's many friends, colleagues, and former students. The selection of the award recipient has been left entirely in the hands of Fletcher students, which the Student Council has managed. I now call on Khadija Muhammad and Kinsey Spears, members of the Student Council, to come forward to announce the winner of the 28th Annual James Paddock Teaching Award.
Congratulations to my fellow classmates. Many of us are finally graduating. We are graduating because of the faculty that pushed us to think critically about the world around us. We are graduating because of the frustrating but ultimately rewarding papers, problem sets, and capstones that our professors guided us through. We are graduating because our professors affirmed us, motivated us, and some, more than others, told us that we were wrong. We are graduating because of professors like Kimberly Titan. Please join us on stage to accept your award.
Professor Thyden currently serves as the Henry J. Lear Professor of International Humanitarian Studies and co-director of the Gender Analysis and Women Leaderships Program at the Fletcher School. She also holds a secondary appointment in Tufts University's Department of Anthropology. Professor Thyden is a medical anthropologist whose areas of expertise are gender and international affairs and humanitarian affairs with a focus on Latin America. She teaches 3 famous courses here at Fletcher: Gender Theory and Praxis, Memory Politics, Truth, Justice, and Redress, and Engaging Human Security. In addition to her role as an educator in the Fletcher community, she's also served and held various positions as an advocate, mentor, and champion for students. During the 2018-2019 academic year, she served as a faculty member on Fletcher's Committee on Diversity and Inclusiveness, in addition to being a faculty advisor for the first ever Decolonizing International Relations Conference and 3rd Annual Conference on Gender and International Affairs, to name a few.
Professor Titan helped make me into the student that I am today, one that apparently doesn't even know how to leave Fletcher. Her mentorship, both in and outside the classroom, informed my worldview and drove me to accomplish goals that when I came here, I didn't even know I was capable of. I know I am not alone in this. Some of the ways that students have described her is resilient, compassionate, encouraging, and thought-provoking. Professor Titan strives to make our work at Fletcher valid and valuable. She encourages activism in her students and assigns activists on her syllabi. In her classes, I have read Bell Hooks, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Kimberly Crenshaw, amongst many others. She strives to be inclusive, intentional, and intersectional in her scholarship. But more than that, Professor Titan practices what she preaches. In her time at Fletcher, she has navigated a gender discrimination lawsuit at Harvard University, where she is trying to speak truth to power in academia and beyond. Professor Titan does not only teach us to think about bettering the world around us, but she expects us to actually go out and do it. She wants us to be our best selves, and her door is always open to help us to accomplish that. Many of us can attest that learning from you has truly been a pleasure, and I am thrilled that I get to continue to.
Professor Thyden, on this day of reflection, gratitude, and celebration, we want to recognize the impact you have had on the Fletcher community. Your eagerness to learn from and alongside others invites and encourages us all to strive to do the same. The compassion that exudes from your sincere efforts to listen, affirm, and support others invites and encourages us all to strive to do the same. Your fearless allyship and solidarity with voices that have and continue to be marginalized, erased, and silenced in academia invites and encourages us all to strive to do the same. Your commitment to creating spaces that uplift others encourages and invites us all to do the same. You have taught us so much, and for that we thank you. You exemplify the transformative, empathetic leadership our community and future depends on. On behalf of those who have the honor of identifying as one of your students and mentees, I want to express our utmost gratitude for having the ability to say that you have challenged us and continuously seek to become intentional and critical in our work as scholars, researchers, activists, and practitioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Fletcher swag? Thank you. And it's not a glass. I already have one. No. Thank you. And I'm glad it's raining so you can't tell I was getting teary-eyed. So first of all, thank you and congratulations to the class of 2019. And a very warm welcome to the rightfully proud family and friends. I love commencement. I think this is a grand day to celebrate achievements. I'm also grateful to my partner, Kathleen Stauffer, who is joining me here today. Now, something I've noticed about my wonderful students at Fletcher is that you've come here, it's not just about jobs or employment and careers. Over and over, the theme that comes out in my conversations is crafting a life of significance. You were already working, you already had jobs, and you will have them again. Emphatically, I guarantee it. I know that you will. The statistics prove it. You will be gainfully employed. I think that what motivated many of you to come to Fletcher, right, was a lot of what drove me back as well to graduate school. Sure, you wanted new skills, to be sure, but I think you were also searching for the time and space to reflect upon what you had done and on what you'd seen. That was certainly the case with me. And much of the time that I spent doing HIV/AIDS prevention and teaching English as a second language to migrant kids in Salinas, I felt like I was doing triage, running around and trying to clean up policies and interventions that had failed the people with whom we work. So my sense that I share with you is that we wanted to move upstream and try to change the forces that impact people's lives in ways we may find very troubling. So you're here, seems from what you tell me, to craft careers of substance and to lead lives of significance, and I applaud you. Now, there's a common thread throughout my classes, and it's not just that you have to read more than you ever imagined. Because I do read your evaluations, I just haven't been able to take the less reading to heart, but I try. As I always tell you, for everything I assign, there's 20 things I really wanted to. And I didn't. So I do exercise some self-control if it's not abundantly clear to you. So in my classes, we study and discuss some emotionally disturbing material that asks us to think about our responsibilities, the ones that we have to and for one another. It's hard material sometimes, and usually about mid-semester I look out and I see some weary and dejected faces, and that's when I assign some of the self-care literature. Right? For instance, in memory politics, truth, justice, and redress, we begin with the Holocaust, and then we work our way carefully through the bloody genocides of the last and current century. There's no shortage of material there to trouble your sleep, I'm dismayed to acknowledge. Now, when we study the Holocaust and subsequent mass atrocities, we note time and again that the malfeasance and abhorrent acts of a few were made possible by the silence and complicity of the many around them. They say nothing, and they turn the other way. And yet, and I always include this literature as well, and yet, There are always those who do speak out, who do not just go along, and who do not turn their heads the other way and plead ignorance to the violence being deployed around them. I do think history judges us. I do. And I think our conscience does as well. I imagine all of us here in this room would wish to be counted among those who used whatever power or privilege they had to do the right thing in tough times. It is our responsibility to and for others to take a stand when we listen to hate-filled nationalist rhetoric, when we begin to hear that some people matter for much less than others. When we live in troubling times, I think we have a responsibility to speak out. Now, I think many of you stand for something. You certainly, the students, you impress me all the time with that, and Fletcher has changed. Now, in the not too distant past, if there was an announcement circulating that a tenured female professor was getting the Paddock Award speech, the probability of guessing who was definitely stacked in the gambler's corner. But now I think we count among us 7 or upwards of tenured female faculty here at Fletcher. And it's because of you. It's students. You lobbied, you organized, you changed Fletcher. Students found allies among peers, faculty, staff, administrators, and deans. So you changed it. You stood for something and you exercised allyship. Now, I hope, and it's on my list of things to make sure of, that in the near future we will all be standing to celebrate a woman of color accepting this award. It'll happen. And so now I want to turn back again to this idea of standing for something and to allyship. Now, from my conversations with you in office hours, I know many of us are feeling that virtually everything we care about is under assault. These are exhausting times. Who shoulders the hard work of social change, and who bears the burden of institutional reform? Here at Fletcher, and I would argue it's at campuses across this country, the labor of gendering, queering, and decolonizing international relationships has rested on the shoulders of students, particularly students of color and students who belong to the LGBTQ communities. Students have led these efforts, they've raised the questions and shouldered the work. It's time we all helped shoulder that work. We all share this responsibility. Part of the stance that I've taken, and thank you, Kenzie, for alluding to it, on sexual assault and harassment on college campuses is because it seems to me that we should not place the burden of speech on survivors of horrific acts of violence. If we know that people around us are being harmed and systematically ignored, it's on all of us to say something. So we share this. The burden for speaking out should not and must not be placed solely upon those who have been made to feel marginalized, those who endure the 1,000 paper cuts of microaggressions. So we all have a responsibility to and for one another. Diversity and inclusion isn't just PC, and I don't really think I ever want to hear that it is again. Our research, recommendations, and policies are impoverished by the exclusions and silences of people who have been made absent in the theories that constitute Western canon. So allyship, to paraphrase Bell Hooks, whom I'm always happy to paraphrase, it's not just enough to say I'm an ally, an identity or lifestyle that one takes on or off depending upon the political winds. Not enough. What she tells us is we should advocate allyship as a political commitment and an enduring stance on life. It's not just an identity. It's a lifelong process of learning and building relationships based on trust, consistency, and accountability with marginalized individuals or groups. And allyship is not self-defined, a congratulatory pat on one's own back. Our work and efforts must be recognized by the people we seek to ally with. And another person whose work I love and always assign is Roxanne Gay. And as she says, you know what? If you've got some privilege, be aware of it. If you're unaware, it's entitlement. But if you're aware that you have privilege, then use it. Use it in every way you can to do something good in the world. Now, you may not have thought you had forms of privilege until you got here to Fletcher, but you're all graduating from Fletcher. That's privilege. There will people who will open the doors for you who would not have before and will listen to what you have to say. You live here with the privilege of a graduate degree. For many of you, perhaps the first in your family. I was the first in mine. And when we walk out of here, hold your head high and use your privilege for things that matter. So standing for something, part 2. I always have 3 more things to say. If you're in my class, you know that. Now, I mentioned our exhaustion and that virtually everything we care about is under assault. But there are things that have really buoyed me, kept me hopeful, and supported me. And one is doing one's own part. So I try to do my part. I know it's never enough and it's way too small. But I look to my right, I look to my left, I look out here, and I know that my friends and my colleagues and my students, my peers are also doing their part. And all of that together begins to matter. So at Fletcher, every student I have worked with, we stand for change and social justice. Let's go through some of the things that might disturb our sleep. Stand up if you believe climate change is real and we should be doing something about it. Yeah. Stand up if you believe in equal rights for all people, all genders, and you think women have a right to control their own reproductive tract. Stand up if you believe that immigrants are human beings. I don't ever want to hear the term illegal alien ever again. If you believe that immigrants are human beings and that no child belongs in a cage. And finally, since you're standing up anyway and it feels kind of good, we have a long afternoon ahead, stand up if you believe diversity and inclusion matter because we are better thinkers, researchers, scholars, practitioners. We are better human beings when we acknowledge, value, agree or disagree with different points of view and life experiences. Stand up and speak out. And keep standing and look around. Look around you in this great, big, huge tent. This is a social movement in the making. This is power, and this is what change looks like. I want to applaud you. Woo. So to conclude, over the past 2 years, I date it to right about election time, 2016, it has been hard, I think, to keep up one's spirits. And I will tell you flat out, coming to campus at Fletcher has bolstered my sense of hope. You, in the classrooms, in your written work, in your capstones, some of them turned in a little bit late, in your did I say that? Just a slip. You have fired my optimism, because there are days when it's hard to keep it up and to believe that we're going to do something about what is happening in this world. I feel optimistic every time I step into my classroom here at Fletcher. You inspire me because you all stand for something. And it seems to me that that is the core of crafting careers of substance and living a life of significance. So I want to say congratulations to all of you, class of 2019.
Thank you, Professor Thaden, and congratulations on a very well-deserved award. And we feel lucky to have you as a member of our faculty.